Biomed, Nexus Daily Updates, your essential biotech, medtech, and pharma recap. No noise, just what matters. TLDR Sun Pharmaceutical Industries announced a definitive agreement to acquire Organon, OGN, for 14 share in cash, an enterprise valuation of $11.75. The deal, signed April 26, gives India's largest drug maker full ownership of the Merck spinoff focused on women's health, biosimilars, and established medicines. Bloomberg called it one of the biggest India outbound deals in years. President Trump signed an executive order on April 18 directing the FDA to accelerate psychedelic drug development for serious mental illness. On April 24, the FDA responded by issuing commissioners' national priority vouchers to 3 psychedelic programs: psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, psilocybin for major depressive disorder, and methadone for PTSD. The FDA also cleared the first U.S. clinical study of noribogaine, an ibogaine derivative for alcohol use disorder. Sanofi's SNY-sealed teplizumab received FDA approval to delay the onset of stage 3 type 1 diabetes in children as young as 1 year old, expanding from the prior indication of 8 years and older. Daiichi Sankyo delayed its annual earnings report by 2 weeks, from April 27 to mid-May, to model the impact of Section 232 pharmaceutical tariffs on its CDMO contracts and U.S. revenue. Executive takeaway: the Sun Pharma Organon deal is a signal of where pharma M&A is heading. Organon was spun off from Merck in 2021 as a women's health and established brands company, but struggled as a standalone entity with a $2 market cap and significant debt. Sun Pharma, India's largest pharmaceutical company, is paying $11.75 in enterprise value, including Organon's debt, for a portfolio that includes Nexplanon, contraceptive implant, a biosimilars franchise, and a catalogue of mature brands. OGN shares surged approximately 30% on April 24, when the binding offer first leaked. This is one of the largest outbound acquisitions by an Indian company in any sector, and the largest pharma deal from India. Meanwhile, the psychedelic executive order marks a genuine policy shift. The FDA issuing CNPVs to 3 psychedelic programs is the most concrete regulatory action on psychedelics in U.S. history. Compass Pathways, the company studying psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, called it evidence of shifting attitudes towards psychedelics. The practical impact is that CNPV review timelines could compress NDA review from 10 to 12 months down to 1 to 2 months. This benefits Compass Pathways, CMPS, Atai Life Sciences, ATAI, and other psychedelic developers. Finally, Daiichi Sankyo delaying its earnings to model tariff impact is the first concrete example of the Section 232 tariffs disrupting normal financial reporting. Japanese pharma companies face a 15% tariff rate and have not signed MFN deals with the White House, making them among the most exposed. Read full analysis what to watch. Lilly Q1 earnings, Wednesday, April 30th. The most anticipated report of the quarter. Foundayo launch data, TRX trajectory, Achieve 4 commentary, diabetes filing timeline, Colonia cross-bridge integration, and tariff positioning. Novo Nordisk Q1 earnings, first oral Wegovy revenue numbers, balance delay impact assessment, Sun Pharma Organon. Regulatory path. The deal requires Organon shareholder approval and regulatory clearances. Sun Pharma will fund with cash and committed financing, close expected in 2027. Psychedelic CNPV timelines. Which of the 3 CNPV recipients files first? Compass Pathways has the most advanced psilocybin program. The CNPV could compress review to weeks rather than months. Daiichi Sankyo earnings, mid-May. The delayed report will include tariff modeling for the Enhertu franchise and CDMO contract provisions. This is a template for how XU Pharma companies handle Section 232 uncertainty. Corporate and business developments, Sun Pharma acquires Organon for $11, 75B enterprise value. OGN What happened? Sun Pharmaceutical Industries and Organon announced a definitive agreement on April 26, under which Sun Pharma will acquire all outstanding shares of Organon for $14, $0 per share in cash, an enterprise valuation of $11, 75B. Organon was spun off from Merck in 2021 and focuses on women's health, Nexplanon contraceptive implant, biosimilars, and established medicines. Sun Pharma plans to fund the acquisition through cash and committed financing. The deal is subject to Organon shareholder approval and regulatory clearances. Executive impact. This is India's largest outbound pharma acquisition and one of the biggest pharma deals of 2026 by enterprise value. OGN shares surged approximately 30% on April 24 when the binding offer first leaked, from roughly $10. 70 to above $13. Sun Pharma, India's largest drug maker, gains immediate scale in the US market through Organon's established commercial infrastructure, women's health franchise, and biosimilar portfolio. For Organon shareholders, the 14th share offer represents a significant premium to pre-leak trading levels, but is well below the 30-plus range where OGN traded in 2022. The deal also eliminates a company that had struggled with its debt load and declining revenue from mature brands. Daiichi Sankyo delays. Earnings on tariff. Uncertainty. Daiichi Sankyo delayed its annual earnings report by approximately 2 weeks, pushing disclosure from April 27 to mid-May. The delay is attributed to the need to model the impact of Section 232 pharmaceutical tariffs on the company's revenue and CDMO contract provisions. Japanese pharma companies face a 15% tariff rate under the Section 232 framework and have not signed MFN pricing deals with the White House. Daiichi Sankyo's ADC portfolio, including the blockbuster Enhertu, co-developed with AstraZeneca, is manufactured in Japan, making tariff exposure direct and material. Policy and public health, Trump signs. Psychedelic therapy, executive order, FDA issues, first psychedelic CNPVs, what happened? President Trump signed an executive order on April 18 directing the FDA to accelerate the development of psychedelic drugs for serious mental illness, including treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, and substance use disorders. On April 24, the FDA responded with concrete action. 3 CNPVs issued: psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, psilocybin for major depressive disorder, and methylone, an MDMA-related compound, for PTSD. This is the first time the FDA has offered to fast-track review of any psychedelic therapies. First U.S. ibogaine clinical study cleared. The FDA authorized a Phase 1 trial of noribogaine hydrochloride, DME-RX, for alcohol use disorder, the first time an ibogaine-derived compound has been allowed into a U.S. clinical trial. 50 mentals RPIH allocation. The order directs HHS to allocate at least 50 ml through RPIH to match state government investments in psychedelic research. DEA rescheduling pathway. The order directs the Attorney General to initiate rescheduling reviews for psychedelic drugs after successful Phase 3 completion, potentially compressing the post-approval rescheduling timeline. Executive impact. FDA Commissioner Makary said these medications have the potential to address the nation's mental health crisis. The CNPV pathway could compress NDA review from 10 to 12 months to 1 to 2 months. Compass Pathways. CEO Kabir Nath called it evidence of shifting attitudes towards psychedelics. Psychedelic biotech stocks, CMPS, ATAI, MNMD, rallied on the news. The practical significance is that the same CNPV program that approved Foundayo in 50 days is now being applied to psychedelics. However, the executive order does not make psychedelics legal, does not immediately make them available to patients, and does not lower the FDA's evidentiary bar for approval. Clinical and research updates. Sanofi's sealed, approved for type 1 diabetes delay in children as young as 1. SNY, the FDA approved a supplemental biologic license application for Sanofi's sealed teplizumab to delay the onset of stage 3 type 1 diabetes in patients diagnosed with stage 2 T1D, expanding the indication from age 8 and older to children as young as 1 year. The approval was granted under priority review and is supported by 1-year data from the Phase 4 Petite T1D study. This is significant because younger children with stage 2 T1D are often at the highest risk of rapid progression. The week in review, April 16th, Wednesday. Lilly reported Achieve 4 Phase 3 results. Foundayo met CV safety non-inferiority, MACE 4 HR084, and showed 57% lower all-cause death, HR043, P-002. Diabetes filing, planned by end of Q2 under CNPV, April 18th, Saturday. Trump signed psychedelic therapy executive order, directing FDA to issue CNPVs and allocating 50 meds through ARPA-H. April 20th, Monday. Lilly announced Colonia acquisition for up to 7B, 325B upfront, in vivo CAR-T. April 21, Tuesday. Revolution Medicines AACR data, 58% ORR combo, 47% ORR mono in 1L PDAC. RM055 preclinical, ASCO plenary secured for May 31st. FDA approved Merck Idvinso for HIV, April 22nd, Wednesday. CMS shelved balance extended bridge through 2027. Lilly acquired Crossbridge Bio for $300 million. Biogen consolidated felzartamab rights for $850. J&J beat Q1 with 15B plus drug sales. April 23rd, Wednesday. FDA approved Regeneron's Otarmeni, first gene therapy for genetic hearing loss, and second NME approved under the CNPV program after Foundayo. Sanofi sealed expanded to age 1 plus for T1D delay. April 24th, Friday. FDA issued first psychedelic CNPVs, psilocybin, methylone. Cleared first U.S. ibogaine clinical study. Daiichi Sankyo delayed earnings on tariff modeling. April 26th, Sunday. Sun, Pharma, Organon. Definitive agreement signed, 14 share, 11s, 70 BEV. The week ahead, Wednesday, April 30th. Lilly Q1 earnings. Foundayo, Achieve 4, Colonia, tariffs. April 28th to 29, Pharma partnering U.S. Summit, San Diego. This week, touched next, Novo Nordisk, Q1 earnings. First oral Wegovy revenue, May 2 to 5. DDW annual meeting, Digestive Disease Week, May 6th. Royalty Pharma, Q1 earnings May 12 to 14. Fierce Biotech Week, Boston. May 19th, RBC Global Healthcare Conference, New York. May 29 to June, C. Towson ASCO annual meeting, Chicago. May 31's ASCO plenary, Resolute. 302 full data, RVMD. Read full analysis Biomed. Nexus Pro Institutional Intelligence. Brief Sun, Pharma, Organon, cross-border consolidation. This deal is significant for several reasons. First, it is the largest outbound pharma acquisition by an Indian company in history. Sun Pharma, already India's biggest drug maker, gains immediate commercial scale in the US through Organon's sales infrastructure, Nexplanon franchise, and biosimilar portfolio. Second, the enterprise value of $11.75 includes significant Organon debt. The equity value at 14 in share is much lower, reflecting Organon's leverage. Sun Pharma is essentially buying a commercial platform with mature revenue at a discounted equity price and assuming the debt. If Sun Pharma can stabilize Organon's declining established brands' revenue while growing Nexplanon and biosimilars, the deal could generate significant value. Third, this is a template for Indian pharma expansion. Companies like Sun, Dr. Reddy's, Cipla, and Lupin have historically grown through generics. The Organon deal gives Sun an established brands plus biosimilars plus women's health franchise that positions it as a mid-tier global pharma company, not just a generics player. Psychedelic CNPV, who files first? 3 programs received CNPVs, psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, most likely Compass Pathways, CMPS. Has breakthrough therapy designation, most advanced clinical program, Phase 3 data expected, psilocybin for major depressive disorder. Could be a different sponsor than the TRD program, potentially Usona Institute or another developer. Methylone for PTSD. Mind Medicine, MNMD, has been developing methylone for PTSD. Less advanced than psilocybin programs. The CNPV pathway could compress NDA review from the standard 10 to 12 months to 1 to 2 months, the same speed that got Foundayo approved in 50 days. The limiting factor is not FDA review speed, but whether any of these programs has sufficient Phase 3 data to file an NDA. Compass Pathways is closest, but has faced setbacks. FDA declined accelerated consideration in late 2025. The EO and CNPVs signal political and regulatory support but do not change the evidentiary bar. Lilly Q1 earnings preview, April 30th, 5 numbers that will define the call. Foundayo TRX trajectory, we have week 1, 1390 scripts, 2 days. Lilly will give a broader view through mid-April. Acceleration from week 1 to week 3 plus is the critical metric. 2. Achieve. 4. Filing timeline. Lilly targeted end of Q2 under CNPV. Will they confirm the submission is on track? 3. Zepbound, Doc Mounjaro revenue, growth rate relative to Novo's Wegovy Ozempic franchise, supply chain commentary. 4. M&A integration update, Colonia 7B, Crossbridge 300 ounce, Orna 24B, Centessa 7-8B. 4 integrations in parallel. 5. Section 232 tariff positioning. What MFN deals has Lilly struck? What is listed on Trump RX? Impact on gross margins? Catalyst. Calendar, April 2026. Forward date, event tickers. Wednesday Lilly. Q1 earnings LOY, April 28-29 Pharma. Partnering US Summit, San Diego. Multiple. This week. Next. Novo. Nordisk. Q1 earnings. First oral Wegovy revenue. NVO May. 25DDW annual meeting. Multiple. May 6 Royalty Pharma. Q1 earnings RPRX May 12-14 Fierce Biotech Week Boston. Multiple May 19 RBC Global Healthcare Conference New York. Multiple May 29 to June 2 ASCO annual meeting Chicago. Multiple May 31 ASCO plenary. Resolute 302 full data RVMD end of Q2 Lilly Foundayo. T2D filing under CNPV. Expected LOY late May 2026. Commerce section 232 report on medical devices expected MDT, BSX, SYK, ISRG June 2026 Takeda, CEO transition, Julie Kim, TAC July, or Medicare GLP-1 bridge program launches, LLY NVO July, 31 Section 232 pharma tariffs, effective, large companies. Multiple H2 2026 Lilly, Colonia, close expected LOY H2 2026 Beeline, Medicines, Afimetoran, Phase 2, SLE readout, Private H2 2026 Revolution Medicines, CNPV NDA filing expected RVMD H2 2026 Novo Nordisk weekly, US launch, first weekly insulin, NVO mid, 2026 Lilly, Retatrutide, Phase 3 obesity readouts, Triumphant program, LOY 2027, Sun, Pharma, Organon, close expected OGN, Acept 19 Ultragenics, UX111 PDUFA, Sanfilippo type A gene therapy, Rare Sept 29, Section 232 pharma tariffs, effective, all other companies, multiple deck. 31, 2027 Medicare GLP-1 bridge program expires, extended, LY NVO end of 2026 PHRMA CEO transition NA visit the Pro, Hub read, full article, is your company listed in the Biomed Nexus directory? 2,104 companies across 14 categories. Claim or upgrade your listing. Sponsorship slots for 2026 are limited. See packages and pricing.